So, we're gonna have a very quick, about 20 minutes talk about game production. It's gonna be like a very beginner uh, talking about, I mean, chatting almost about game production. So, let's go. I'm Claudio. I've been working with games for a while. Now I work as a producer for Cornfox and Brothers. The last game we released was Ocean 2 last year for Apple Arcade, and it's coming for Switch soon. But before that, I have about 20 years of experience releasing games for several platforms like PC, DS, PS3, PSP, arcades. When I say arcades, I mean proper arcade cabinets and consoles and so on. About 30 plus games. This one was the first game I released. It was in 2003, back in the day when I started my first company with some friends. It was PC games for kids, adventure pet horse games for the German market. Uh, we released it in 2003. It was the first 3D game for this kind of category. The back in the day, this box PC games for kids were uh, something big, and a company from Germany talked with us. Back in the day, we were in Brazil to make a pitch, and we did a pitch. We passed, so that's why we end up working this game. And this was the first 3D games in this category back in the day, and opened because of this game, it opened the doors for other games from our company back the day. I mean, our company was Preloud. The other companies are actually the publisher, the agent, and so on. And it, of course, it was released in not only in Germany but France and other European countries back in the day. And this was the last game I worked on. I mean, last game it was published. I worked on, and that it's already out on for Cornfox. As I said, it is a game for Apple Arcade, but soon it's gonna be out on Switch. I did these two games just to show the first game I worked on as a producer, and the last one as well, and just to compare. I mean, like 20 years of difference between them. Both are still a third person action game, but of course very different games. And these are more games I worked on before, like several rhythm music games for iPhone. Back in the day was very big. Also several other pets slash adventure games for kids, for PC, DS, and so on. Here more or less the same category. One of them are the one up there, Lisi, is IP game. This is in a very old game school. I don't even remember what year was that. Maybe 2000-ish. I don't really remember. And some action games I worked after a while, 2D platformers, and well, other adventure game on the bottom and so on. And one free to play game. This one, the Soccer Town. Yes, I have one free to play game in my CV. So, what exactly a game producer? I mean, what does a game producer do in the end? Basically, in my point of view, the producer is the person responsible for the project itself, for the product itself, for the release, and for the delivered, I mean, milestones and so on. Is the person responsible for the resource management, of course, schedule, and especially communication between, I mean, within the team and also with the stakeholders. uh, these stakeholders not necessarily are part of the team, but it could be a publisher, it could be someone else inside of the team, or even all the producers. which you have to report to, depending on the team structure. For example, here is just a little bit about the structures. In bigger teams, there are producers working for areas. For example, animation, plot, narratives. In AAA games, you normally have one or some producers per area, and a lead producer or executive producer, or someone who would you have to report to. In smaller teams, a producer could be a game director and also a game designer. It really depends. But this kind of structure will really vary a lot depending on the team structure and the team size. For mobile free to play and game as a service, they have a completely different structure as well. But I don't have much experience on this area or service or free to play, so it's really hard for me to illustrate how this structure works. But for sure, it will be a bit different from compared with a small team or a big team AAA for retail game, premium retail gaming, for example. Well, some important skill sets I think a producer should have. One is like a producer is something like a manager slash a facilitator. Is more like a facilitator than a manager itself. It's someone who would solve problems, and someone who needs to be driven by reason, not passion. Of course, passion is always important, but you have to, in the end, the main reason to, the main task of producer is to have the deliver, the milestones, and have the game out. So it's important to have the team build skills, because the team is, the most important asset in the end, because a good team will deliver good games. As I said before, it's something with someone with more reason. More focus on reason than passion. So a critical analytic thinking, it's super important. Active learning mindset, because you should be always trying to have better ways to teach better ways to improve your teams and your team, and also your how can I say, I forgot the word now, but you have to have this kind of mindset. To have this kind of learning thing, to be always improving your team skills and so on. Leadership, communication. I say communication a lot, but it's maybe it's the most important asset, most important skill a producer will need. And of course, a bit of emotional intelligence. Prioritization, prioritization, interaction cycle. This is something that I kind of made up, but I'm quite sure there is something, how can I say, I don't know, more structured about that. But basically, when you work in a game, when you work in a I would say product in general, but let's focus just on games, because it's the thing we work on. When you work on something, you should try to find your minimal viable product, MVP, and try to prototype as much as you can inside this MVP. Like, try new features, try to find what are your cores, what is your core game and your core mechanics and your core experience there. In the beginning, it's really important to try to let the creativity, let the creative part of the game, of the team, explore as much as possible until you find this kind of core. Once you find this core, you can focus on the main features of this core, and try to polish and have it, how can I say, find the most important things for this experience. After you have this in mind, after you have more or less your core detected, core loop and so on, it's easier to know what kind of resources and time you need to have a better, a final product. And then when you get there to have this kind of list of necessary resources and so on, it's easier. Also, it's also easier to start your list of must have, should have, and could have lists. It's like this is something that it's in basically any product, any project. But if you don't have how can I say, step by step to get to this list, to get to this kind of tasks, it could be harder to know what exactly you need for each part. So a bit about creative again. Versus production. As I said before, in the beginning, it's really important to leave the creative part of the project, do whatever they want, try whatever they want, to put new features and try combine stuff and so on. This stage is very important to find your core, find your main experience in game cycles and so on. Once you find this, once you find your core, so you can focus on it instead of being trying different things that doesn't really fit with the core. Uh, New features, content are nice, but be aware how to. One important thing as well is when you are working with a team, you should know what your team is good at. What kind of tasks they could perform better, and also your limitations. For example, if you have a very good 2D team, a team that is really very experienced in work with 2D art, they are really good on it. The programmers are work with 2D for a long time, and then I don't know, you have an idea, or someone has an idea to work on a completely different environment, like a 3D game with PBR and so on. If your team is not really prepared for that, you will have some issues. I'm not, if it's something that is super important for the product, for the project, of course you have to think about it. Maybe you have to change the team or have some time to improve your team, improve the learning and so on. But it's something that you have to be aware, because it will bring some issues during the development if you don't have the know-how inside. And of course, the creative production curve. What is this creative production curve? It's like, as I said, as I was just saying, that in the beginning of the project, the creative area, should be free. The guys should have the freedom to add and try stuff. But when you are getting to the alpha stage and get close to release, you should keep in mind that this kind of mentality needs to change a little bit, because you're not doing the prototypes, you're not doing demos anymore. You have to finish the game and have some have the milestone complete and get to your gold masters and so on. So at the beginning, I would say you have more creative freedom, but in the end you have to focus more on the deliveries, focus more on the releasing part of the game, instead of just add more features and stuff like that, because you probably would not have time to test these features, or even they can break the game somehow. Some production stages. Of course, this is just one structure, but I actually made up this design, mid stage, and production product, just to have three different stages, but it's the same thing. Some people just put it together. Some structure will vary a little bit depending on team by team, or who is talking about that. But this is mostly for premium and traditional games. For premium box or digital PC console stuff. For free-to-play service games and so on, I don't have much experience in this area, so it's probably a completely different structure. And also, they service games, they don't have this end project. The games never end. They are having always new content and so on. So basically we have the proof of concept. It's very simple, playable or something like this. A vertical slice is something with most part of the features that you can play and feel your core gameplay. Usability tests, I would say, is when you have your a good playable, you can have some people testing and giving some feedback for that. And then you get to the mid stage, which is the alpha milestone. Alpha milestone is more or less when you have not featured complete, but you have basically every functionality there, but it's not even, I mean, it's not everything yet. When you have everything, all the features and everything, this is the next stage, the beta milestone. But the beta milestone not necessarily, it's when you technically have all the features and also all the content, and then you have to, I mean, it on this stage you have to polish what I mean the whole game. I mean, all the content, all the features, and so on, and see what is working, what is not working. And of course, when you get there, when you finish this the stage, you have the release candidate, and from the release candidate to the gold master is the stage when you are finishing. I mean, the fine tuning and everything to have the game itself. I mean, the version 1.1.0 or something like that. This is actually the original idea was to have a proper graphic showing this, but I end up not making. I'm really sorry, but basically it's I call it well, play, evaluate, fix, repeat. This is a design thinking stuff, but applied for games, for game development, game production. It's basically like you play the game, you write or receive feedback, you process this feedback, and then based on this feedback you filter. I mean, you see what is really relevant for a game, what is not, what should you do or do not. For example, here we have like 1, 2, 3, 4 stage, but I put it in 6 bullet points here, which would be a little bit easier to understand. For example, let's say you have a playable, you send this playable for some testers. The testers will play the game, you will get this feedback, you analyze the feedback, like if it's valid, is not, or what kind of thing would really improve the game, and so on. Then based on that, you review this feedback and start new tasks, I mean, to improve the game. And after that, when you have the next build, the next playable, so you repeat this until you have a more rounded, a better product. So some production super hints, some important things that I think are nice for producers in general. Focus. I mean, it's really important to say no many times, especially to when you have when you are very advanced in the development process, I mean development cycle. Say no to features, say no to new content, to have I mean, to keep your milestones and to keep your how can I say, big picture and everyone on the same page. Give ownership to the team. This is absurdly important. Like if a team, if they are happy, if they like what they are doing and they have some inputs in the game, probably you're gonna have a better product. Always have a plan A and also plan B, C, and D, and so on. Yes, things even if you have a very good plan, things most likely will go wrong at some point, and you have to be very flexible and know, I mean, your possibilities. If something goes wrong, it probably will at some point. Learn many process and methodology, but adapt them to your team. Well, most part of the game studios, they use some kind of Scrum, but not a full size Scrum, which is correct because some stuff will work well for some teams. Other teams will have different needs and so on. Communication, information, the most important. Yes, I talk it all the time, but if the team knows what is happening and everyone knows, everyone have the correct information at the correct time, it's something that is very valuable. And when you work in a team that people don't know exactly what is happening or what are the next steps and so on, this could be a bit dangerous and, well, complicated. Don't forget your network. Talk with people. Yes, This is something important. I think it's especially if you are indie developer and you are working on something that you don't have much experience, or you would like to learn more or something like this. I think it's always good to have someone with more experience, someone who can take a look on your game and give you some feedback and so on. Be humble, learn is good, fail is part of the process. Yes, fail is okay. I mean, it's really hard to make a game that makes money and that it's popular, successful, or anything like that. So it's okay to try fast. I mean, put something on the market, see if it works. If it not doesn't work, we will learn a lot. So don't be I mean sad if you fail, because well, everybody fails in the game industry. At some point we will succeed, but it's part of learning. It's part of the thing, I guess. Be realistic. The team is always more important than the project. As I said, the don't try to burn your team or do unrealistic schedules or unrealistic tasks or something like that. Try to make a game and try to make a product that your team can deliver, because this is something. I mean, if you try to push that much, something that happens a lot in the game industry is after you release a big game or something like that, part of the team they leave the company or start a new one because they are not really happy with the results and so on. Yes, it happens. It happens a lot. Ideas are cool, but execution is king. Yes, I mean, it, if you have good ideas, it's nice, but I mean, put these ideas in practice and see it working. It's the value is there. I mean, the idea itself alone, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't have the same value. What else in a professional project? This is basically try to work with professionals and people who want to have a similar mindset, because sometimes you have some people who are feature creep, or they want to push themselves, and so it could be complicated depending on the team. Test your game earlier. We talked much about it already. Don't reinvent the wheel. I mean, if you have a very experimental project concept, it's good to try and so on, but try to keep on some design conventions we already have, because it's well, people are aware, people know how they work. Keep moving on. There's no perfection. Yes, for example, when you have a good feature and something that is working super well, but there is this, I don't know, you want to have this better somehow. Sometimes this is problematic because it's working well enough, so you don't need to go further than that. There is no perfection, and you can always go back to this feature and go back to this content, whatever, and make it better. Kill your babies. Yes, cutting features can lead to better games. That's true. I mean, sometimes you have a feature that doesn't fit to your core, and if you try to push this on the game, it will feel very weird after a while, and just killing it and not having it most part of the time is the best thing to do. And of course, polish your core as much as possible. I talked a lot about core game, the core gameplay and the core cycle and so on, because this is something. If you find your core, if you find the most important features in your game and focus on it, this is the thing that is gonna be, how can I say, the main thing in your game in the end. So if you can find it, it's not easy, but if you can find it and know what it is, you can push on it and focus more on this instead of doing things around. These are some books. There are production and game development books that I think are really nice. I already read the two of them. I mean, the Direct Video Games 101 is excellent, and it's basically a pocket game. I mean, something. Oh, so sorry, a pocket book, something that you can have it on your desk or something like this. The Blood, Sweat and Pixel is also really nice. And I'm in the middle more or less on the production pipelines, fundamentals for films and games. I bought this one, the other one, the game production handbook, but I haven't started yet. But well, people say that's really good, so I trust them, I guess. And that's it. If you guys have any questions, I will be online after the talk. And if you need to contact me or anything, there's my email, um, Twitter, and also LinkedIn. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you. Thank you very much.